Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for Papermaze, and I'm working with the Simple Vintage Seas collection from Simple Stories, and it's the second layout I've made with this collection, and I'm still absolutely loving it. Anything nautical is sort of right up my street, so this is definitely a new favourite of mine, and everything in the collection is so usable. You could use it for any sort of beachy or coastal or sailing related layout. There's nothing that's kind of random that you sometimes get in collections, so everything about this I'm going to be using. It's just absolutely perfect collection for me. And today I've got a photo I'm scrapping of my little boy. It's taken on the Isle of Wight, and it's actually at the ferry port at East Cowes. We were waiting for our ferry home earlier this year. I think it was Easter holidays, and the side of this house or shop, I can't remember what it was, had this massive lighthouse painted on it. It was absolutely stunning, and I did have two photos printed out to use on this layout. I had a bigger one that was 3x4 and then this smaller one, and I had a layout kind of planned in my head, and I started it making a patterned papers, or making a square, sorry, of patterned papers on the background with kind of 4 triangular pieces, and I'd stitched them all in place, and the photos just weren't sitting right on it. I didn't like it, I wasn't happy with it, so I decided to start again, just using the smaller of the two photos. And I think it's because there were different colours in each of the photos, it was really putting me off. So I've gone with the smaller photo, which is obviously more zoomed in, and the other photo I had was zoomed out so you could see the whole lighthouse on the side of this building. I've actually stuck that to the back of my layout, so I've still got the memory documented. I just really loved the way the layout was coming together with just this smaller photo and the colours in it, which is a bit of a shame because I did have this idea planned of making a layout with lighthouses, and I've now chopped the lighthouse off my photo, but I couldn't make it work. I wasn't happy with the colours in the photo, and I didn't want to make it black and white. So this close-up version worked, and the other one has been stuck on the back of my layout, and I kind of started again from scratch, as you can see here. So I decided to ditch the patterned papers and just create a layout using embellishments. So I've got ephemera pieces, chipboard pieces, some stickers, and I've started with that lovely big lighthouse there. That's from the Page Pieces pack. You get a little pack with some die cuts in, and it's really inexpensive, and you get loads of really nice little bits in it. And I loved this lighthouse, and it was perfect for the theme of my page. So I started off with that, and I knew I wanted to use that. And then I put the photo down next to it, and I kind of pulled a few bits out, and it just so happened that the bits I pulled out I liked, and I liked where they put them. And like I said, this was my second attempt at this layout, and it's totally different from what I originally had sat down and started creating. So it just goes to show, kind of my first idea doesn't always work, and I have to go back to the drawing board. And I just thought, ditch the pattern papers, let's just have a play with the die cuts in the collection, and I was really happy with how it came together. So I've got that lighthouse from the Page Pieces pack. I've got a gorgeous chipboard piece, that's that lovely little sailboat with the anchor and the blue seaweed. So that was really good, and the title I've pulled out, Come Sail Away With Me, because like I said, we were waiting for the ferry at this point where this photo was taken, and you wouldn't sort of initially guess that looking at the photo, but that's sort of part of my journaling that I've put on the back of the layout. So all the little things to do with sailing worked really well for this page. And I decided I wanted a little bit of light mixed media in the background. So this is the Simple Stories wave stencil that was released with this collection. And I'm using a distress ink in, I think it's called Blueprint Sketch, like a lovely kind of what I call Chelsea blue, like a royal blue. It works really well with the collection and a few of the colours in my photo. So I'm just going to have some waves in the background. And I did the stenciling and decided actually I've gone up too high. I don't really like how that's looking. So I turn my page over and start again. So it was a case of kind of third time lucky with this layout. I didn't give up, I kept going until I was happy with it. But it was just the stenciling, I'd just gone too high up. As you can see, I've pulled out another stencil on the left of the screen there by Bramble Fox. That's Fox Cut 17. And I wanted to use that as well. And that wouldn't have worked with my waves going quite so high up the page. So I've started again, same stencil, same ink, and just trying to do it a little bit lower down the page. And as you saw, I've kind of stuck a few of my bits and pieces here together, the ones that were overlapping, so I haven't got to move so many pieces on and off the page. So I've got that lighthouse, I've got the chipboard piece, which I talked about on my title. I've also got a kind of banner sticker over on the right there, that bit that sticks out. That's from the sticker book, and you get a whole sheet of those. And I really love them. I usually use them at the bottom or top of a page as kind of like a header or a footer. With some other little embellishments sort of clustered around them. So this is the first time I've kind of used one in this kind of manner, just like stuck in the middle of the page as part of a cluster. But I really like how it looks. It just kind of extends the design over, and then that with that lighthouse kind of makes an L shape for my photo to sit in. I think that kind of works really nicely. And then I've got obviously a little a ship steering wheel, and a little bit of blue seaweed. Those are from one of the die cut packs. I think you get one called Bits and Pieces and one's called Nautical Bits, I think. So I've used a couple of those bits as well. And I'm raising my photo up on foam to bring in a bit of dimension, and just make sure that it kind of pops off the page a bit and stands out. And then because I've added foam behind my photo, I'm having to raise a couple of the other bits on foam as well, just so they all sit level on the page and don't sort of sink down. And I've also done some stenciling over on the left there using that Bramble Fox stencil. And that is a red Distress Oxide I've used, and the shade is called Barn Door. And it's kind of almost a corally red, but it's sort of more on the red than coral. But it's not as red as, I think it's Candied Apple or Fired Bricks are the other ones I've got. It's not quite as red as those, so it's more of a subtle red. And I've just done a little bit of a starburst design over on the left there. I am going to come back in a minute and do a bit more on the right. And I love that stencil with kind of the layout, the theme of the lighthouse, because it reminded me of the light at the top of the lighthouse, kind of shining out over the sea. So that's why I picked that stencil, because I thought it would go really nicely and fitting with the theme. And like I say, I'm going to do another area of that over on the right in a minute. And just a shame I didn't think to do it before I'd stuck everything down on the page. So I have to kind of peel my photo up and stick my stencil underneath. But it's doable. And now I'm just sticking a couple more bits on. These again from the sticker book, and you get loads of pages in this sticker book, as you can see, and everything's nice and small, so it's really usable. Just you can tuck a few bits in here and there and layer them up, build some clusters, and nothing's too big, so it all kind of sits nicely on the page. So obviously the biggest things I've got are my title and the lighthouse, which were perfect because that's kind of what I wanted to stand out along with my photo. And then all the other little bits are just little details. Obviously I've picked the ship's wheels because we were, like I said, waiting to get on the ferry. I've got a couple of starfish I've added on. Obviously there were no starfish on our boat, we didn't see any starfish, but they just work perfectly with a kind of coastal layout. We were at the ferry harbour, the ferry port sailing across the Solent, so you know, starfishes work for me, as do seaweed and things. So everything about this collection just works really nicely together. There's no like unicorns and weird coloured rainbows or bicycles or anything like that. It's all really relatable stuff. And I'm really enjoying working with this collection. I always find the vintage collections really nice to work with, and everything matches beautifully. They're just such a pleasure to work with, these collections from Simple Stories. So whenever Vanessa gets a new one in at Papermaze, I either use it for my DT assignment, my project for that month, or I end up buying it because I just love them so much. And again, I'm adding some more small things now. This layout's all about small things. So I've added a little sticker over on the right there next to my title. I think that had a compass on it and a red anchor. That is from the cardstock or combo sticker sheet. And then I've got another little kind of phrase sticker. I think it says sail away, and I'm just going to add that under the bottom there just to bring in a bit of blue, because I was feeling like with that red starfish and the red title, even though I had that stenciling there, I just felt like I needed something in that lovely blue shade. So that worked really nicely. And I'm still just flicking through the collection here, seeing if there are any other little bits I can add in. I contemplated adding a bit of red seaweed here and sort of had a little play to see if I liked it, and decided I did. So after saying I wanted something blue down there, I ended up adding something red as well. But I just felt like it balanced it out nicely, because I've got the blue bit of seaweed above it. And then obviously on that chipboard piece that I've used, there's a bit of blue seaweed on that as well. So it just kind of made a little triangle of seaweed, which I liked. And then I felt like the page just needed something darker around the edges just to frame it nicely. So I'm using this gorgeous pattern paper. Now this is one of my favourites in the collection. It's got all the anchors on it, and it's a lovely sort of royal blue colour, sort of bordering on navy. And obviously you can see I've cut some of the middle out that I've used on a previous layout. So I kind of had my frame there and ready to use. So I just trimmed, I think I did 1/2 inch off of one side and then 1/4 inch off the top and bottom, just because I wanted to try and keep my design positioned how it was. Didn't want one side of it too close to the edge. And as I had the design more over to the left, it made sense to take more from the right, I think. That makes any sense at all. I know what I'm thinking, but whether it's translating or not, I don't know. But I just wanted to keep the page and the composition as it was, with nothing too close to the edge. And then I'm just going to add double-sided tape all around the edge there and get that stuck in place. I'm going to finish off just by adding some machine stitching around the edge there. I'm just going to use a white running stitch. Just it sticks that in place, and it also brings in a little bit of texture and interest. I love machine stitching on a layout, so just a bit more texture around the edge, a bit more material on the page, something nice to look at. I think it just finishes it off nicely. So there we go, I've skipped through the rest of the sewing for you, just tying those threads off on the back. And then I'm just running my nail across the edge of the paper there. I had run it through my edge distresser and roughed the edges up, but where I'd put it through the sewing machine, it kind of flattened those edges. So just running my nail across kind of brings them up a bit more, turns them up, it brings in a bit more texture. And that is me done. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the layout and it's given you some inspiration. You like the process. Obviously it wasn't the layout I started with, but I am super happy with how this one turned out. The first layout just wasn't working for me, and this, just using lots of little things from the collection to build up some clusters around my photo, I think has worked really well. So it just goes to show that you don't need loads and loads of pattern papers, just let the embellishments and your photos sing on the page. But I will pop a link down in the description box below to the Papermaze store and the collection, so you can have a look at it in full. It really is a stunning collection. And I'll also pop a link to the Papermaze blog, so you can have a look over there. You'll find links of all the products I've used too. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.